Hello, and hopefully welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about environments and the approach to creating and crafting environments and what it means to create an environment. But first, here's a little showcase of some of the environments I've created in my game so far. Now, hopefully I've done my job and that was a broad enough spectrum and sort of a good idea of the different sort of environments you can create. And like I said, hopefully I did a good enough job. I feel like they're pretty good. Now, if you want to create an environment, I mean, like everything else that I've discussed in my previous videos, best place to start is what do you want to do? What do you want? And what do you need to make that happen? And when it comes to creating an environment, I guess the first thing you want to do is really define what an environment is. And honestly, the way I define the environment is basically it's everything that you use to fill the space around the character to convey whatever it is you're trying to convey. So the environment can be a literal forest, as you see behind on the screen. It can be a city. It can be a feeling. It doesn't have to be a literal, bio environment. The principle of creating environment is really just whatever your character is. It's everything else. Think of it that way. Everything else in the scene and how it works and flows together to create whatever it is you're trying to get across, whether it be an emotion, a weather scenario, an environment such as a forest or a desert. All of these things, the approach is the exact same. And really, like I said, you can start with what do you want and then what do you need to do that. In the case you see behind you, I wanted a forest. You saw in the first part of the video a glimpse at the hub world, and hopefully I did a good job there in showing how each area led off to its own separate environment, or, you know, level, whatever you want to call it, separate scene. Hopefully you could see that they all blend together yet are distinct, which is part of, again, another part of creating an environment. When it comes to my game and my specific scenario, I'm obviously using sort of the hub world method, branching out to other scenes. So I focused first on my hub world. I created basically from a circular design because I wanted it to branch out. From there, I pretty much just kind of laid out a few basic things I wanted in my head. Got to work on the first area I would spawn in, and just started building out from there. I didn't really, I knew what areas I kind of wanted to have, a forest, a desert, a cave, things like that. So I just kind of started building, excuse me, started building in a circle, basically, and made sort of an entrance area for each one and tried to blend them together. And then when I got that to about 85% to my satisfaction, I began work on this forest. I had a lot of doubts that I would not be able to capture the same sort of feel and magic that I felt like I had captured in the hub world. So I went into it with a lot of trepidation and self-doubt. But within a matter of hours, I had actually created something I was super happy with. And it all starts with creating environment and what I was trying to get out of it. So the first thing, obviously in this case, would be trees. Usually once I've decided what my scene is going to be, or what my literal environment is going to be, I then start grabbing all the assets I can think of that I might need. Feel free to use the dreams asset, all the dreamers that are making great stuff. I've used quite a few things. Oftentimes you can find something that fits your needs. If not, you can find something you can tweak. And if not, you can make it yourself. The options are endless in a game like Dreams, because like I like to say, it's both the toy box and the toy manufacturer, the toy factory. If you can't find it to play with, you can definitely make it yourself. So I grab a list, or I write it down, or I just think of things and I grab one of everything that I think I could need, throw it down, and then I go from there and I start placing things. Now this entirely depends upon what you're specifically doing. In my case, I was building a forest. When building something natural, there are some key elements. Like I've said many times, when it comes to art design, there's not really rules, but there are. There are things that work. When it comes to nature, there are rules as far as what works and what looks natural and what doesn't. The key to, in my opinion, the key to nature is controlled chaos or controlled randomness. Nature is very random, but at the same time, it does have some patterns and some control to it. So you don't just pop. Basically, you can kind of tell when you have too much or too little of something. First of all, so moderation is always key when you're dealing with nature. When it comes to a thing like a forest, I just think naturally, like, oh, how does a forest form? Well, seeds drop from random, places, whether it be an animal's butt or from the seed pods or the wind, whatever the case is, they drop where they drop and they grow. So that's pretty random. That's easy. You can drag and drop trees all day long. Now keep in mind that you do have a limit when it comes to the objects and the thermo and all of that. If you don't know what that means, there's a lot of tutorials and, you know, different resources to get information about the thermo and how to keep it low. I'm not here to talk about that today or even go into the specifics. This video is just a general look at creating environments and how to approach environments and defining what an environment is, which we've done. Like I said, an environment to me is basically anything outside of the character that you use to fill up the space to convey whatever it is you're trying to convey in that scene or in that moment. So back to creating natural environments, the key is controlled randomness. When it comes to like trees, I just started plopping them down, rotate a few different angles. I use the same tree. When it comes to video games, you can pretty much get away with using the same tree. I just cloned it over and over, changed the size, rotated a little bit, and started placing them. When it started feeling right, I would, jump in, run around, look at it, and adjust what needed to be adjusted, add trees where it needed to be, did what I needed to do as far as making it feel like a forest. And that's just trees. It was too flat, in dreams you start with a flat land. That's when you get into the sculpting, and again, that's a whole separate element that requires its own specific videos, but in general, I use the sphere when it comes to like landscapes, and I just make it really big, and I start really low underneath the level, and I make hills by just rolling it slowly and naturally as I go, and do a little at a time. If it looks right, keep it. If not, undo. And then you got to add a little bit of randomness to the ground as well as to the placement of things. That's the key to nature, is it's random, but you're controlling it, so you have to keep it in check. But you also know what it looks like. If you need inspiration, look outside, look at pictures, look at videos on YouTube of stock footage of aerial ground footage, satellite footage, whatever you need to see what ground looks like or get an idea in your head. But other than that, the next step to creating an environment is also, the atmosphere, which really comes down to lighting, sound, and the volume, which would be like fog in the event that you need. Like in this case, I wanted a bed of fog. You want a nice misty, foggy forest. So use of fog and lighting is important in creating the atmosphere and the ambience in a scene, whether it be natural or an interior. Wherever there's light, you have lights. If you're inside a building, you have light outside. You have your sun or your moon. You have maybe street lights, whatever sources of light there are outside, as well as the sources inside to take into consideration. In the case of this forest, I knew I wanted the sun because most of my levels are pretty dark, and I wanted this to be sort of a combination of, or an in-between. But I didn't want it to be too bright because it doesn't fit with the aesthetic of the game. So I have a low sun, but it's still up. And then I've used spotlights and fog to create the beams going through the trees. The more trees I added, that also reacted with the light realistically in dreams. So I didn't have to do too much other than put the trees in and let light do its natural thing. When it comes to nature, you don't have to do much, but put the pieces into place and let nature do its thing. Obviously, you adjust angles, you adjust the light, you adjust, the brightness, things like that. But those are all going to be specific to what it is you're trying to create. There are many different ways to create environment, and again, it's rules but no rules. There are tried and true methods that work. We know how to create a scary environment. We know how to create, you know, a bright, cheery environment. There are things you can do, cues that you can use, music, sound effects, whether it be birds chirping or, you know, a spooky scene. Throw in some thunder, throw in a large moon, a dark night, you know, make it spooky, you know, crickets chirping, owls hooting. If you're in a forest, like I have a swamp that I'm working on, you saw some of that in the beginning of the video. All of those different environments use the exact same elements. It's lighting, it's fog, and it's use of space, use of sound. They all, in my opinion, I've done a good job of making them all distinct from themselves. But at the same time, there's an ambience that flows through it all, that connects it all. Now, maybe you're not doing something such as I am, that's, you know, so big, so maybe you don't need so many environments or so many things. But the philosophies applied to the elements are going to be used. You know, the same things are being used for any sort of environment you're creating or atmosphere. So, you know, going back over our steps here. What do you want? What do you need to achieve it? When you're talking about environment, you're using the space that is not the character itself, and what is it trying to convey. So you need your literal physical space, whether it be indoors, outdoors, in space, whatever it may be, in the mind. It's limitless. You know, there's no end to the possibilities, whatever your imagination wants to come up with. But the principles to creating an atmosphere and environment are the same. Once you've reached that, you know, it's a use of light, volume. In this case, it's usually fog and light, and sound. These things combined create the ambience, which creates the atmosphere used in your environment that you've created. Whether it's a game, a movie, a music video, whatever you're doing. In the case of games, other things you want to keep in mind when it comes to the environment are subtle visual cues to lead players to things that are important, musical cues, and themes that run throughout your game that are consistent. These are things that'll help you, whether you're, you know, if you're making several different environments, especially if you have a running theme throughout them, it's very easy to get away with making different environments as long as there's a thread that runs through them all. But there's a lot of other elements that go into it that are, like I said, more specific, and they would require their own specific videos, but I don't have the time. That would be, you know, this would be a 4-hour video, and I'm not going to do that to anyone, let alone myself. So when you want to create an environment, just remember the basic philosophy that I've laid out in my previous videos. If you haven't seen those, go ahead and check them out if you like this sort of thing. But my philosophy is the same throughout. It runs throughout all design. It's, you know, there are no rules, but there are rules. Those rules are that we know what works, and what works for a reason. So don't be afraid to use it. But also, there's nothing wrong with breaking the rules. The only way to make something better and make something new, all art is predicated on breaking the rules set by the art before it, which broke the rules of the art before it. That's just how it works. That's how design works. So, you know, feel free to experiment, but also keep in mind, you know, the basic rules used by filmmakers when it comes to lighting, when it comes to creating a scene. Hitchcock, when you want to make something scary or, you know, suspenseful. Tim Burton, when you want to make something like I've Got creepy yet cute. You know, there's plenty of places to draw inspiration from and get ideas. for what works in creating the environment you're looking for. It's out there, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, directly copying something. If you need to just sort of learn how to do it yourself, don't put it out there if you didn't create it yourself. But if you're just practicing and you're trying to learn, use your favorite movie scene. You know, copy everything about it, learn how they did it, and just mimic that within, you know, dreams. You can set cameras, you can set lights, you can do everything you can do in a film. So creating an atmosphere and environment is exactly the same as in creating it in nature. What's scary to you if you're trying to create a scary scene? What makes you feel happy when you think of it, music wise, sound wise? You know, what sort of things are you trying to get across? And think of all the elements that bring those things to mind, and then try to put them in your scene and tweak them, make them work together. But like I said, it's all about defining what an environment is, which, like we've said, basically every element that makes up the space of a scene that is not your character, but also conveys what it is you're trying to convey. And then your use of specifically lighting, fog, volume elements, your use of space itself, how you define that space, how you guide the viewer, the player, the interactor through the experience. These are all done through your environment, and they can be in subtle ways, or they can be, you know, in your face. These are all, you know, there's no rules when it comes to that. It's up to you what you like. The best rule to me is just make what you like. Make something you like. If you like it, there's got to be other people out there that are going to like it. That's just how, you know, how it works. That's why people like the same things. So if you're making something for yourself, but not a selfish way, you just, you know, you make it something that you like. That's the best place to start. That's how you know that you're on the right track, is if you enjoy or you like what you're doing, and you like what you've made, you're happy with it. That's all that matters. You know, make it, put it out there, share it, and, you know, somebody's going to like it. But when it comes to creating environments, those are your key points, you know. There are more in-depth things to talk about, especially when it comes to lighting and your use of lighting in space, negative space. These are all philosophies that you can look up and find principles online. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professor. I'm not going to go in depth. I probably do have the knowledge base to do so, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm just kind of giving you my basic rundown and approach to design and to designing my own game, which I'm also showcasing in these videos, so that it can get some exposure, I guess, as well, and maybe build some excitement, maybe inspire some people. I'm always looking for good models for things to use in my level design, you know, creatures, things like that. I've found quite a few that I've been able to sort of tweak and use, but for the most part, a lot of things in my game right now are placeholder until I really find or make the perfect thing. But that's dreams, and the principles we talked about can be applied to pretty much the design of any environment or atmosphere you're trying to create. There are specific techniques to things like creating water, reflections, things like that. We didn't go into those. That's another video, and I'm sure I'll make another video about that. But for now, if you're still watching, thanks. I love you, and I will see you next time. again, if you're still watching, seriously, thank you. I hope you check out my other videos if you're into this sort of thing, and if you have dreams, I hope you check out my game. Follow me on there. And again, thanks for watching. Love you. Bye.